Hi guys, welcome back. In our previous video, we were able to get our form data. So now we are going to consume our API. So what we are going to do first is to consume our API, we are going to add a package called Axios or Axios, depending on how you pronounce it. So Axios, yarn add Axios, npm should be npm install or npm I Axios. So once you install Axios, you head over to editor. We are going to create a new folder called let me close all this. Create a new folder called services. I like to do every API request there. So services, I think it's preference. People have different places they do this. So me, I just like to do it in services. So I'm going to import Axios from Axios, Axios from Axios. So create a variable which I'm going to export const Axios instance. That's instance. I think it's too long, but all the same instance. Can't even spell again. Okay, so going to create Axios variable called Axios instance, and Axios gives us has a property called has a method called create. So we're going to say create, which will pass in the base URL, or pass in the base URL, which is in our case is http http this. I think we just need the v1 copy and paste. So you don't want to do this. This is not advisable to do in real life production or in real life scenario. So you want to put this in an environmental variables. You don't want to expose your endpoints APIs to the users or to the clients. It's not advisable to do such. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to let's just create an env file and do that as well. Yeah, just to show you how it is in real life scenario. So I'm going to create this variable called create app react underscore app, then there should be host name. So creating environmental variables in React, it must start with this name react underscore app. Like it must start is it's compulsory, it must start with this name. If it doesn't start with this name, React is going to ignore it. React won't even take it, won't read it, to ignore it totally. Like it will act like it doesn't exist there, like nothing like that exists there. So paste this here, and I'm going to say process dot env dot copy this, copy the name, paste. Yeah, so awesome. So now we've done this, what I'm going to do, and most importantly, whenever you create an env or you make changes to an env file in React, you have to restart the server. It's compulsory, you have to restart the server. So I'm going to restart the server so I can close this, refresh. Awesome. So what I'm going next is in our register route, I'm going to import our Axios instance. So I'm going to import it. So import from services config. Yeah. So that should be Axios instance. Yeah. So in our submit form, I'm going to wrap this in a try and catch block. Try and catch. There's an error. Try an error. CLG. Yeah, so this should be an async await. So const create a variable response, which is await axios instance dot post. So it's a post request. As we are doing in our postman, is a post request we are making. So our authentication route is a post request. So post request C. So env is v1. So which is going to be so post request. If I show you, it takes in three three params, which is the URL, that's the endpoint, the data, that's the input field, and a config, that's it's and then it's optional. So the config is optional, the data is optional, but the endpoint is not optional. You have to pass an endpoint. So I'm going to pass in these, which is the endpoint, which is API slash viewer slash alt slash register, and I'm going to pass in this input data here, and I'm going to log the response. So clg response. So what I'm going to, at this point now, I'm going to test our API to be sure everything is working as expected. So I'm going to create a new user called let me say username Cloudy, email, this password. Yeah. So sign up. We are getting an error here. Access to XML HTTP request at from origin. Okay. So we're having cost problem here. Cost is blocking based on security issues. So we're having cost issues and it's blocking us. So I'm going to have to enable cost in our back end. So to do that in our backend, I'm going to add a new package for our backend. Say yarn add cost. So I can show you the doc for course. I think course npm. So this is course configuration. This is the configuration to enable it globally on all API, or as in on all ports and all API requests. So I think there's a way to configure it here. So you can configure it to just accept a particular URL. Like it should only be like, let's say in our case is localhost 3000. We just only want localhost 3000 to be able to access our endpoint. So we can be specific about this. So this is advisable to do um this is advisable to do in production app, because you want to be strictly like only my and my domain should be able to access my backend endpoint, nothing else. My not no any other domain should be able to access it. So you might want to add configuration to it, but in my case I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to enable course globally. So I'm going to import course here from course. Yeah, so below here I'll say enable course. So I'll say app.use course. Yeah. So if I save this now and our backend server restarts and I try hitting our endpoint again, I should be able to create this user now. So this time around we are getting 400, which is a bad request. Let's see our network response to see what's happening. 400, add a client. Okay, we're not passing a client key. Remember we created we made sure that anybody accessing our API must pass in a client key. So to not no bots or anybody should be able to access our API without a client key. So we're going to pass in the headers in the Xuse config. So I'll say client key, which is in our case we still want to create it as a environmental variable. So I'll say react underscore app underscore client underscore key. So copy this, Control C, paste equals to. So in our backend, I'm going to copy our client key in our env. This, yeah, I'm going to copy this. Control C and paste Control V. So like I said, anytime you make changes to your env, you have to restart your server. You have to restart the server. Yeah, so close this. Don't need this. Reload. Yeah, so let's try signing up a user now. Everything should be working fine now. Yeah. And password, I mean email is this password. Successful, yeah, 201. So successfully signed up a user and we got the token. Yeah, so we've successfully consumed our API. So in a case, let's try hitting this endpoint again. In this case where there's an error message now. So there's an error message and our error is catching. We are actually catching the error message, which is 400 bad requests. And if you look at the response in our network, so that should be username already exists. So in this case, you want to display the error. Like we want to remove this error message, this error field. Let's remove it first before displaying the errors. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do check. I'm going to do some check in our component, that's in the input component. So this invalid should only show when there's an error message. Yeah. So I'm going to say, let's leave, so I can just copy them once and cut X. Yeah. So so if there's a if we're going to say, let me do this way. I'm going to say if error message dot length, if error message is not equals to or is equals to, let's say it's not equals to, let's say is equals to empty string. Yeah, so currently it's an empty string because there's no error message. Yeah, so if it's an empty string, means that there's no error. It should just show, it should just return this. Yeah, yeah, it should just return this. But then if there's an error message, it should display both these and these. Yeah. Oh shit, control Z, control C. Yeah. So if it's empty, it should not display it's invalid. In fact, it should just show us a basic React component, like basic UI design. But if there's an error, it should show us this is invalid. So if we reload this page, we should not have these red lines again. Yeah, awesome. So what I'm going to do now in this catch, where we are catching our errors. So in our register, here, so this is where the whole thing is happening now. So I'll say if error. So I think we have access to error dot response. I think, yeah, response. We have access to this. So let's try it again. This username already exists. So let's use username that already exists, which is sign up. So this is, yeah. So our response, as you can see, we have access to response, which gives us access to data dot the error message. In our case is email. Username already exists. Why is it an email? I think it's an error from our backend. Let's go and fix that. So that should be in the validation, user validation for sign up. It should be username, not email. My bad. Where is that? Okay, no, that should be in the check. Check if username already exists. If username already exists. Okay, it should be a username, not email. Yeah. So let's check this again. Let's reload. Hit it again. Should be your username now. Yeah, username. So if there is an error, if username already exists, it should trigger an error. If any error at all, like both in error, any error at all, it should trigger the error and log the error to us. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say, so here's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to say first of all, I want to be sure there's an error. So I'll say if error and error dot response. Yeah, so we don't want our app breaking in the case of where there's no response to it. So if error and there's error response, yeah. So we want to do I'm going to if the error and there's error response, we are going to add a new variable, let's say error message for like if let's see how we can display this. Let's look at the error format again. I think it's cavd password. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's the data dot username. So if it's a username error, display an this username error for us. If it is an email error, it should display an email error for us. If it is a username error, display an error, a username error message. If it is an password error, display an error password message. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say here at this point. So I'm going to say at this point, if this error exists here, and I still want to do a check again, and an error. No, let's destructure this. Should I? No, let's leave it this way. Error. I think we should destructure it. It looks more neater that way. It looks more neat that way. The data. Yeah. So if this exists, yeah, that means there's an error message. I think this is. Let me just put this in an if statement to make it more cool. So if error and error dot response, yeah. So if error and error dot response. So in the if again, we are going to check say that at this point I'm going to have to destructure this, say const. So if this exists, that means we should have data. We should have access to error dot data. So I'm going to say error dot response. So and I'm going to say if data exists, if this data error exists. Definitely, there's no need of checking if this exists again because this already exists. Because once you have access to response, definitely we have access to data. So I just want to be sure that we actually have data. So that's what I'm just doing. I just want to be sure we have data. It's always good to do to be strictly do strictly validations to be 100% sure. You never can tell. Little thing can break the app. So little thing you never imagine can actually break your app. So if data actually exists, if it's true that if it's not undefined, if it's true, if it's not null, that there's data there. So we want to set in this input field. Let me create another variable for error here. So another state for error. So I'll say use state. It's an empty. Let's just say an empty object. In our case, it's error and error set error. Yeah. So if this is a set error, so set error to be data. I think it's data dot data. Yeah, data. Yeah, should be data. So at this point we should have error dot username, error dot email, error dot password. So I'm going to say if error. First of all, if there's an error message, so where is it in this error message? So I'll say if error and error dot username exist. Yeah, it should just send in the error message. Yeah. So if this does not exist, so I'm going to copy this for email and password. Pretty much copy the whole thing here. Email. We want to be 100% sure. We don't want to pass in on something that doesn't exist there and then it end up breaking our app. So password. So if this is true and this is true, it should show the error message. If this is false, it should show the error message. So let's see if this is working as expected. Required said props is marked as required input, but its value is undefined. Okay, don't worry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try. Let's test this out. That is because we set it. We are setting this as required, so I'm going to have to remove it from required because at this point, there's no error message. Let's put in a blank. Let's say or empty string. Let's just make it blank so it doesn't. It has to be required. So we say or empty string. Yeah. So just grab this. Yeah. Do similar thing. Yeah. Yeah. So that should be cavd. Cavd already exists. Email exists. So if I hit this now, username already exists. Awesome. So cool. So our validation is working fine. Let me use put in something else here. This name email does not exist. This email is not in our, I mean, this username is not in our database, but this email is in our database. So it should trigger the email error now. Email already exists. Awesome. So our validation is working fine, and it's pretty much awesome. And I love the fact. So our validation is working fine. Say there's an error message, it indicate there's an error message for the particular input field that has that error message. If there isn't, they shouldn't. So one thing I'd like to do now, since we've been able to handle our errors for backend. So I think I can remove this. Where am I logging it from? Yeah, I think I can remove this now. So since we've been able to handle our errors now, so what I'm going to do now is get our response on successful login and set the token for the user in our JS cookie. So I'm going to import JS cookie here. Import cookie. Let me call this cookie from JS cookie. Yeah. So once the user is successfully signed up, I think we have access to res.data. I'm not really sure. Res.data. Let's log it. Let's sign up a user and see what we have. So this username does not exist. So I'm going to have the P. Email is let me use this email. Password should be that. Sign up successful. So created successful. So we have access to data dot token. So what we need is the token. So I'm going to say data dot token. So that should be, yeah. So I'm going to say res dot data dot token. So like the email part, like the email, we also want to do a validation to be sure, like, hey, this is there, this is there. We don't want to just check this data without being 100% sure. Or imagine something happen and the app breaks, and those whole things. So we want to make sure that this is actually there. So it's good to be. It's always advisable to do strictly validation, like be strict to your validation. So if this data is there, definitely we have access to token. So you might want to do validation also for that. I like to even do validation for that just to be sure that there's a token there. You know, yeah, so in fact, let me do that. Let me show you. Let me do that. So if the token is there, yeah, and there's no need for that, but you might want to do that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say cookie dot set. Yeah, so that should be token, set token to be token. Yeah, and I'm going to remove these here. So once the user successfully logs in, set this token and let's redirect them. So one thing I like to do is React has has gives us access to history.push, but I don't want to use history.push. I want the page to reload while redirecting the user. Um, some app I don't know if you've noticed some top apps, like when the user logs in, it reloads the user, like it reloads the page and redirects the user. So I want to make sure of that. I believe why that happens is so that while the page is reloading, is going to um, get necessary data for that page to for that path to work properly, for the app to work properly. Sometimes when you do history.push, it's just going to push the components, and some things might not work properly and it might end up breaking the app. So one thing I like to do is I like to so if I let me show you the whole how I do it. So I just do Windows the location. So Windows the location, if I log this, it gives me access to some. Let me just comment all these out. Yeah, so I can just see. Okay, let me put this. So Windows the location gives me access to origin. So this is the origin. So one thing I like to do, I like to replace the origin with I like to use the origin. So the origin is the endpoint. That's the domain name. Is like the domain name, like let's say google.com. That's like an origin. So I'll just say I just do this. So I like to structure it. So I'll say const origin. Oh, my bad. Control Z. Origin, which is equals to Windows dot location dot location. Yeah. So I'll say Windows dot location dot replace dot location dot replace. So this is what I like to do. I like to reload the user. Use vanilla JavaScript to reload the page, and no, not like reload the page, like redirect the user to where I want the user to go on successfully login. So after that, I'm going to be using React history.push from the router DOM. But for now, whenever I'm signing a user in or signing up a user, I like to do this. So I think it's preference. It's just how I love to do it. So now once I successfully signed up a user, that should be Cavdy. No, Cavdy already exists. So let me see. Cavdy right. Let's see an email that does not exist. So this should be .co. Let's say .co. Password. Yeah. So sign up. So when sign up successfully, yeah, as you can see, successfully logged me in, redirected me to where I wanted to. And if I check our application, I show you our cookies. It saves our cookie for us now. I have a cookie there saved with the token for the user. So if I expand this, so as you can see, these are our token and these are our cookie for the user. One thing I'd advise you to do is always set an expiry date for your cookies. Also, cookie has this expiring date. This is how do I expand this? But this is an expiry tab. I'm 100% sure of that. But the same, always expire your cookies. Always try to expire your cookies. Advisable to do so. And I think that's pretty much it. And this video is extremely long, and I'm sorry about that. I just had to go through this whole process. I didn't want to do everything on super speed. I just wanted to explain the whole thing like the best way I can. And if you have any feedback for me, if you feel I'm not doing great or I can make things more better, do let me know. Leave it in the comment section below. I'd appreciate that. And if you have any feedback for me, still leave it at the comment section below. And I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.